Hey, John.
Hey, Eric. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah.
How are you tonight?
That's a loaded question. I don't.
Oh, it's a loaded question for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a heck of a week.
Yeah. I think I'm generally frustrated by why there seems to be such a controversy over using the term Black Lives Matter. I don't understand why that to some people means that other lives don't, or, it's just very frustrating looking at social media and the echo chamber that it seems a lot of people seem to be in. And it would be nice if people would just stop and listen and not just react.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah. I saw a tweet by Scott Hanselman today that was, hey, my wife had cancer. If I hold a fundraiser for cancer and I say, hey, we're trying to cure cancer, I don't need you coming in and talking about all the other diseases. Sure, there's other things, but you know what we're talking about at the moment? Cancer.
Yep.
So, yeah, Black Lives Matter. Period. That's all. I gotta say, I didn't actually plug in this past weekend until like Sunday or so. I was
smart man.
I was off of. I didn't see any news. I did watch the launch and the docking, but that was, hey, join, look at nasa.gov. But other than that, it was Sunday afternoon before I kind of took a break and sat down and started scrolling through Twitter and went, oh, criminy, what the hell is going on in the world?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the SpaceX thing was cool, but it's kind of hard to talk about sending Bob and Doug to space with everything else going on.
You can't say Bob and Doug without me thinking, eh?
I know. The 12-year-old me ran that joke over and over and over every time NASA would mention Bob and Doug. And but anyways, it was.
Yeah,
it was very cool launching astronauts into space for the first time in 10 years from American soil. I thought that was cool.
They sure did repeat that phrase a lot, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody wanted to know or wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, and it would be easier to be more excited about that if the leader of SpaceX wasn't being such a tool.
Yeah. He seemed like I'm yeah.
We're going to have to delete all this.
I don't need to go there.
I don't know. It's not it hey, people listening to us, it's rough. This has been a rough week. So
yeah.
we kind of got to for this particular thing, I feel like we're gonna still talk about our security stuff and find something fun and everything else, but it's hard not to be overwhelmed, especially since this is all coming at the end of 2 months of overwhelmingness and
record unemployment, a lot of people having to stay at home, worried about health in general. Yeah.
Health and food and yeah.
Yeah.
It's we're doing it the hardest way possible is I think what's happening here, at least in America.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah.
Bully for us. Yeah, I was talked to a friend in Germany. Oh, it's nice to. I'm sure it must be nice to have someone who believes in science at the helm.
Yeah,
science. So
yeah,
I will throw in the link for all of this like blather at the beginning here. A link to a Twitter thread about how to be a non-optical ally. So, what we, especially, I am never more aware of the, amount of privilege that we have I think about there was a post by John Scalzi a lot of years ago, but about easy mode, right? Like,
Right.
born a male, middle class in America, white, like you have it on easy. You rolled 20s when you rolled your D&D character, and you got lucky. And I think it's incumbent on us to recognize that and do everything we can to help out and not perpetuate the awfulness that is around us.
This weekend we had a family conversation about what was going on and talked about what we could do to help, or at least not be negative. So, what we decided, daughter number 2 decided she wanted to donate some of her money. And so we talked about different places that you could do that. My awesome. Boy just, thought of a couple of things he could do. And so we're not doing a lot. There's just little things, but I think the most important thing, at least me from the parent side, is just making sure my kids are aware and being able to recognize privilege when they see it, and then figure out how to not perpetuate it and how to not, or that's the wrong way to say it, how to help as opposed to,
right,
not help.
Be a passive observer.
So, yeah.
You are better. I have not had a explicit conversation with my children about what's going on here, and they're mostly probably unaware. Maybe my older one. I need to do that. I will take heed from you and do something about that this week. So, other than that, did anything else that you want to mention?
I'm trying to think if I even want to bother mentioning. So, I think I've griped a few times about my Eros.
Yes, you have.
And being frustrated with them. And, well, they mostly work for me, but the rest of the family keeps saying, the internet's down. And I think I tracked it down to the Eros just somehow occasionally decide they no longer want to resolve DNS. And I don't understand why. So I finally bought some Ubiquiti Amplify mesh routers.
Mm-hmm.
And I installed those a couple of days ago. Well, yesterday, actually, to be exact. So we're recording on a Wednesday night, Tuesday. And so far, so good. However, I still have the Eros running in bridge mode because I have so many little devices that have been connected to that Wi-Fi for years that it's going to take a while to migrate them all over to the new one.
Right.
And I made the mistake of trying to migrate a set of Nest devices over today, and they failed and would not connect to the Amplify system, but happily connected to the Eros system. So
weird.
I don't know why that is. I'm going to have to track that down, but that really annoyed me because this new Wi-Fi system was supposed to help. Anyways,
and
we'll
it
see.
Does it do all the 802.11s? A, B,
it does.
G, A, C.
Yeah, it does. It does them all. It does 5G and 2.4 or 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz, and you can do traffic shaping if you want. Maybe. Anyways, so something is not quite right with them.
Debugging it in your head.
Yes, I am. I should stop. But so some hiccups, but I have a new Wi-Fi system now. I will say that these little Amplify boxes, I got the Amplify Mesh HD routers. They were as easy to set up as the Eros are. The little app that comes with it is nice. They have little tiny LCD screens, which are cool because it'll show you it'll act like a clock. So it'll show you the time if you want, but you can tap the screen and it'll cycle through showing you the current IP address, showing you which ports are being used on the back of it. and it'll show you that device's current upload and download speeds of traffic that are currently running through it, as well as the total number of bytes that have been running through it, which I thought was kind of cool. I've always wondered, how much data am I actually using? Because I never get that from, it's not like my bill that shows up in the mail says you used, 50 gigabytes this month, like my phone bill
does. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2 days, with pretty much all 5 members of the family streaming in some form or another, great chunks of the day, we're at 50 gigabytes of download data already in a day and a half.
So wow.
Yikes.
So yeah, times 30 or at least times 20, 25. That's a lot of data.
Yeah, we're going to get to the terabyte range here pretty quick.
Wow. Okay. Well, I feel guilty that you went and bought that, because I remember talking to you a couple of weeks ago and me telling you that I would be the guinea pig and I would go buy a Ubiquity system first. And then your
I had external pressure.
Your frustration cup runneth over.
Not so much mine, because I knew how to handle it. Mostly for me, it was just toggle it on or off, or I have the tool to just reboot the router myself manually.
Right.
It's other family members who just noticed that websites stopped working, or Netflix stopped streaming, or something stopped happening.
And then they have to come find
their frustration prompted my action. So that's why we have the new one.
That's funny. Well,
I can't say I'm starting to find the things with the Amplify system that I don't like already, which is probably a bad sign. But we're going to stick with it for a little while anyways.
Well, you probably have 30 days before you could hypothetically return them. So all things being well, I will hopefully have a Ubiquity system set up, and I can show you what that is in time for you to decide whether you want to upgrade. Maybe. And I say maybe because...
Right.
So you know what I'm going to say, because I tweeted about it this yesterday. But I was all excited because I just bought. So you went with the consumer-ish, but
consumer
the high-end consumer thing, which was kind of the plug-and-play mesh. But I decided that dang it, I've got a complicated network. I'm going to get a complicated network system. So I went with the big person's network. And I got the gateway. I just bought 3 parts to start with: the gateway, a switch, because I would need a switch to run a bunch of PoE devices eventually, and a single access point that I can set up. And then I actually installed the management console and everything else in a container on my QNAP. So I've kind of got that running and waiting, ready to manage once the gateway gets here. And I was all excited because my access point came Monday or Sunday, and which is great. But the piece that I really need to install first is the gateway, and that hypothetically got here yesterday. Except when I opened up the package, it was a pair of Avenger curtains. Sure, my wife handed me the Amazon package, and I'm like, that's a weird shape. I take it, but it had texted me and said that it was delivered, right? You know how Amazon does that. I opened it up and I'm like, did you order some curtains? They're the sort of thing that you would put in a kid's room. That's fantastic. We would have loved them, 10 years ago. But it is not 10 years ago. It is now. So anyway, I quickly had a chat session with the Amazon representative, and they helpfully are sending me a replacement, but it will either get here Friday or Monday. I know which one I want, but I don't know which one it will be. And I did not get a shipped message yet, so I'm guessing Monday. So anyway, we'll see.
Right.
We'll see, because I was having the same problems you were with the Eros DNS going haywire, and I don't know. I somewhat maybe blame the Eero Pro, the security stuff, but I'm I don't know it for sure. So.
Well, since I'm running both now and running an Eero in bridge mode, it disables all the security stuff. So if the Eeros now magically work fine, because I still got a bunch of stuff connecting to them, I will have an educated guess, a better than educated guess as to what was the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. New networks. Yeah. New networks coming. That'll be cool.
Cool.
Yeah. The rest of my weekend was just work. Work, like not work, but project work, which is why I was not on anything else. I did listen to something fun though, so that'll be my something fun. One of my something funs later.
All right.
Okay. I threw one piece of follow up in here, and then we've kind of got a breach. But the follow up that I put in was to cert that was about the Apple or iOS vulnerability that I mentioned last week, and
right.
Again, and I have not been digging, so maybe there's some posts that have said what it actually is. I haven't been digging, but it is fixed. And this cert vulnerability note does not actually specify what the issue is too. It just says that iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, watchOS, and macOS contain an unspecified kernel vulnerability. It can allow code execution with kernel privileges. And that the nice thing, and the reason why you should even bring this up in follow-up, even if it's not fixed, is that it is addressed in the following OS updates from Apple. So Catalina 15.5 supplemental, and then the important one is iOS 13.5.1. So if you noticed, and I actually noticed that I had a 15.5 supplemental update I applied, I think today on my Mac, that I presume that's where it was.
Yep. Same here.
So anyway, so that's that. And I'm sure once somebody's torn apart what the fixes are, that maybe more info will come out if it's not out already. And then the breach that I put in here was actually from Wayne, put it into general, which was Thailand's largest cell network had a database that was spilling billions of real-time internet records on millions of Thai internet users.
In real time?
Well, it says in real time, and it says that it contained DNS queries and NetFlow data on the internet without a password. So, presuming this was a like a log receiver. So it didn't say what type of database it was. I mean, this sounds to me like it was maybe a elk stack, but I mean, I probably shouldn't speculate on that. But the fact that there's NetFlow data is even worse than DNS. So DNS obviously would give you if you could see everybody's DNS queries or anybody's DNS queries, you could then tell what sites they're visiting. But you don't necessarily know how much they're doing. You know that they looked it up. But NetFlow tells you NetFlow tells you about the connections that are made there and how much data is downloaded, and depending on the level of NetFlow, there can be quite a bit of data. Quite a bit of data. It's one step above or below actually having packet captures for traffic. So if you get a PCAP from somebody, you see everything that's going over the network. But NetFlow is kind of one level of summary above that, and it's a lot of data and a lot of important data. And the other interesting or the concerning part about mentioned in here is Thailand's, let's see, let me actually read this. Thailand's strict internet surveillance laws grant authorities sweeping access to internet user data, Thailand also has some of the strictest censorship laws in Asia, forbidding any kind of criticism against the Thai royal family, national security, and certain political issues. Yeah, and that's the type of information you would not necessarily want out, especially if you're doing anything not necessarily negative, but visiting sites about free speech, etc. So the other thing that they kind of end this this article with is, I'm going to read this other quote. Since a 2017 law allowed U.S. internet providers to sell internet records of their users, which, yes, that is legal. So browser makers have pushed back by rolling out privacy-enhancing technologies that make it harder for internet and network providers to snoop. So that's certainly one perspective of why things like DNS over HTTPS are coming to greater adoption. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about some of the Chrome 83 features, that there's some new DOH settings in Chrome that you can use to set an explicit DNS over HTTPS resolver for that Chrome will use. So anyway, that's the breach. I didn't actually see a number of how many people were impacted. Just says millions of Thai internet users, but
that's probably enough.
It's yeah. You're right. It'll do. Ugh. Okay, well, there you go. How about you? What'd you bring for me topic today?
So I have one article that came across my eyes this week, and that was on the sign-in with Apple. Remember at WWDC last year? Was it last year? Apple came out with a sign-in with Apple, the ability to use your Apple device to sign in with yourself, and then you can choose whether or not to share your email address or anything with the website that you're signing into. And to encourage adoption, Apple required anybody that was using in one of their devices, sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook, to also add a sign in with Apple. Okay. So a researcher discovered a 0-day in sign in with Apple, which essentially allowed anyone to take over someone's sign in with Apple account. So basically how this worked is the sign in with Apple works similar to how OAuth works. You get a JSON web token, and then you share that with Apple, and you can either share your email ID with a third-party app or not. And if the user decides to hide the email app ID, then Apple generates its own user-specific relay email ID. So Apple acts as a middleman there to forward, similar to how, I think this is probably similar to how Apple Pay, right? You don't actually give your credit card number to the end user. There's a intermediate one that kind of sits between you, the one-time use. I don't know if that's necessarily Apple Pay, but
maybe a more familiar might be Craigslist, right? When you email somebody, Craigslist, you're emailing it to a Craigslist email, but Craigslist turns around and emails you.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That might be
so someone is brokering. So someone's brokering stuff on there for you,
proxy
on your behalf. So then that fake after authorization, that fake email address is what then used by the third-party app to log that user in. And this researcher found that they could request these Java Web Tokens for any email ID from Apple. And when that signature of that token was verified using Apple's public keys, they all showed up as valid, which meant an attacker could forge a Java Web Token by linking any email they wanted to it, and essentially then gain access to that victim's account. So essentially full account takeover if someone was using
right. Somebody had
sign in with
token.
Apple. Yeah, sign in with Apple. So the article, you really kind of got to read through the blog post because he's got charts or little graphs and does really good at just kind of explaining it. It's short for a 0 day that Apple paid $100,000 bounty for. It was a pretty simple attack and simple way to do an account takeover.
Wow.
So pretty good. So I think to note as well, after he had reported, he or she, after this person reported this vulnerability to Apple, Apple did an investigation and they determined there was no misuse or account compromise due to this vulnerability. I don't know how they can validate that but probably it's because there aren't a whole lot of sign in by Apple things yet. I don't know. So wow. Good on this researcher.
I had not actually read this article, although I had seen that come across in the feed.
Yep.
But that is super simple.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what caught my eye this week.
Okay, well I have just one as well tonight, topic wise, which is another ZDNet article about a dark web portal hosting service taken offline, actually hacked for the second time in a year and a half or so, and taken offline, and it took off 7,600 dark websites. It says so. This is interesting. I gotta say, I'm in my day-to-day life. I'm not having to do a lot of this work. I know some people that do, and I appreciate the fact that they do it and that I don't have to, because there's lots of, it's not called the bright white sunshiny with polka dots web. I don't know. The couple funny things though about this, one of which is, so they don't keep backups, right? The service doesn't keep backups by design. That's a direct quote. So and they know who this is. So this was Daniel's Hosting. So Daniel Winzen is a German software developer, and he said that an attacker accessed the DH backend and deleted all hosting related databases, then deleted his database account and created a new one to use for future operations. He discovered the hack the next morning, at which time most of the data was lost, and the service doesn't keep backups by design. So I guess that makes sense in a certain extent. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out how, if they know who this is, like, was there really nothing illegal going on there? This seems that would seem strange to me. But they did say later on that the reason why Daniel Hosting became one of the prominent servers or hosting services is because a couple years ago, basically Anonymous took out what was the largest hosting service because they were hosting sites that had child abuse. And that Daniel has evidently done like a better job of policing the sites, so to speak. Here's the quote. In 2017, Anonymous said it took down Freedom Hosting 2 after they discovered the hosting provider was sheltering child abuse portals. And Daniel's Hosting escaped such accusations across the years through an aggressive moderation policy, which helped Winzen discover and take down abusive sites hosted on his service. So I guess there's levels of honor, but still doesn't seem good.
Among. Yeah. Huh. Okay.
Anyway, so this was an article that caught my eye this week at some point that I was like, well, that's good and still a little weird. But I thought, well, what the heck? So yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, I have two something funs.
All right.
Because
something fun this week is good.
I needed fun this week. So the first one is I suppose not I've talked about Raspberry Pis numerous times in the past. The new Raspberry Pi is out, and they now have a 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi 4, which will actually run 64-bit OS. Remember when somebody made a comment about a phone running a 64-bit OS was unnecessary? Now the little tiny Raspberry Pi, the new one, will run a 64-bit OS. And so this article was just about how, as part of this rollout, they have announced that they're changing the name of their official operating system from Raspbian to Raspberry Pi OS. And I was like, part of me was like, all right, whatever, who cares? But then I was reading through, well, why not just call it Raspbian 64-bit versus Raspbian 32-bit, kind of like Windows has a 64-bit and a 32-bit version. Well, apparently, the Raspbian original Raspbian 32-bit fork of Debian Linux that has been optimized for the Pi is an open source project run by a couple other people who work with the Raspberry Pi Foundation, but are a completely separate entity. And the OS that they create has just been used by the Raspberry Pi Foundation, but it was an open source project.
Okay.
And now, what they're doing is they're not creating a Raspbian 64-bit OS, but Raspberry Pi Foundation wanted one, so they went and built out a completely different 64-bit image based on a different port. And the owners of the Raspbian project said, well, I don't think you should call the 64-bit Raspbian or Raspberry Pi OS Raspbian 64-bit because it doesn't have any of the Raspbian code we've worked on in it. You're just co-opting the name. So, and I guess was the actual kind of story behind the story as to why they decided to change the name of the operating system from Raspbian to Raspberry Pi OS.
Why would you not want to partner on the 64-bit version? That seems weird. People are weird.
Yeah. I think there is some mention. I didn't pull that quote into the doc. I think if you read the full article, there's more details on the back and forth and where they went and why they chose to go that route. But anyways, that was my first one, and I suppose that's more educational fun. Well,
yeah,
or just
no.
FYI fun.
An 8 gig Raspberry Pi is still cool. It's still cool.
But my other one is also, and this one I just thought looked cool. So you got to click on the link.
Okay, I have not clicked on the link yet. Let me click on the link.
Time.gov.
I'm clicking on the link. Ooh, okay.
It's just the National Institute of Standards and Technology of the U.S. Department of Commerce has a website that shows you the official U.S. time. And it's got all the states. It has the lines down through the states as to where's Pacific Daylight Time, Mountain, Central, Eastern, Aleutian, Hawaiian, Arizona with their we don't believe in daylight savings time, and maps, and and it's really cool. So I thought the website was well done, looked really cool, but the winner chicken dinner piece of this website, the thing I like about the website the best is your clock is off by. If you look over on the right-hand side,
yes.
That was the thing that caught my eye, and it's like your clock.
And how far off is your clock?
0.047 seconds.
Ooh. So I'm closer to true time than you. I'm 0.028 seconds.
Yeah, earlier today when I was looking at it was 0.033, so I think it fluctuates a little bit. Well,
yeah, so it's probably drifting, and then they probably check in with an NTP server like at sometime in the middle of the night. I don't know. Do you have a cron job set to hit? It probably doesn't show up in cron. So
if you look down at the bottom to it on that same kind of call out column, it says clocks are corrected for network display and network delay. So they're taking into account all sorts of things to show you exactly what time it is. Well, to the second.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if you know this. A friend of mine says this to me occasionally. Time's hard.
Yeah. Exactly. Time, yes. That's been one of my pet peeves in engineering forever, is people not knowing how to do time with computers.
Well, there's the not knowing. Certainly that's the problem. But even when you know, even when
fair point.
It is
even when you know you can screw it up.
And so if in case that was a little too subtle for you, you're the friend that tells me time is hard.
I know.
Okay.
Well, I know.
This subtlety is sometimes lost, especially with sarcasm and,
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly. I also have 2-ish something funs. Let me go back to that tab, though, so I can remember, because I don't actually remember what I put in here. Oh, okay. So first something fun is a quantum thing. So this kind of gets to something I did this week, which I will mention again and maybe post a link once it gets edited and posted. But I recorded a podcast for work this week. And it's the first time I've done it for somebody other than us, you and me, doing this. But so we'll see how it comes out. But it was about quantum computing. And one of the things that I had pulled out of when I was doing some research for that was this article that I thought was cool. So this is a scientist. I think it was from April. So scientists have just demonstrated a hot qubit. So a quantum bit, right? You've probably seen, Google touts that they have a 72 quantum qubit bristlecone chip in development, and they declared quantum superiority with 53 qubit algorithm they did last fall, and IBM's got a 52 qubit computer running. But anyway, the qubits today, I know a lot more about this than I knew a week or two ago, run very close to absolute zero, as in they have to generally be under 300 millikelvins.
Holy cow.
So this hot qubit that they demonstrated, they ran a hot qubit at 1.5 Kelvin.
Whoa.
Do you know how hot interstellar space is?
Hotter than that.
Warmer than that. Yeah. So space is generally 2.7 Kelvin. So this is I guess you would say twice as cold. The hot qubit is still twice as cold as interstellar space.
Wow.
Although down there, it's you're approximating zero. Anyway, I'd never actually heard of a millikelvin before, which I thought was interesting. But anyway, so they've run a qubit at a hot 1.5, and the problem there is that you need to be so close to absolute zero because you're trying to minimize interference with the outside world, right? They're running superconductors, and
right.
It's pretty easy to interfere at a quantum level with a single atom, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that was my first something fun. It was kind of a cool article, and I don't know how well the the podcast will come out or not. We had a fun conversation. I think that I was more fascinated by the science of it than like the exact takeaways for security, which are real. But I also feel like I know a little bit more now than I did about Shor's algorithm and Grover's algorithm, which are two of the famous algorithms that have been devised to run on a quantum computer. And anyway, it was fun. We'll post a link to it. I'll mention it when I do it. But so the hot qubit, that's my first something fun.
Hot qubit, got it.
Hot qubit. My second one is a series of books that I'm listening to at the moment. So I'm done with the first 2 books in the Lady Astronaut series. The first book is called The Calculating Stars, and I've been very much enjoying this series. It kind of reminds me of there's an Apple TV series that is taking off from the space age, right? What happens basically if the space race never stopped? Something along those lines.
Well, I think it was what happens
for all
if,
mankind. For all mankind.
Yeah, if Russia made it to the moon first instead of us. I think it's an alternate history.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I have not watched it.
I haven't watched it either, but but as per normal, I'd rather do a book in most cases. But anyway, so this book by Mary Robinette Kowal is a similar. I'll say similar-ish in that the space race occurred differently, but it starts out with a meteorite striking off the eastern seaboard of the United States in like 1952. I want to say early 50s. So, they've just started working on satellites. They're just and now they realize that they've got basically 50 years before the Earth is going to be uninhabitable. And they've got to figure out how to save humanity.
So I recognize that because I listened to a podcast called Writing Excuses, and she's a frequent host on that podcast, I've heard her. Yeah, I've heard her mention her book before, but it's never been on my list of books to read. But now that you're mentioning it and saying it's good, maybe I'll have to. It seems right up my alley.
Well, I will. Yep. I very much am enjoying it. I haven't listened to I was listening to them while I was working, this past weekend. Well, I think I listened to a lot of book 2 this past weekend. I have not done book 3 yet. Book 3 will be soon. So I'm actually listening. And I think the reason why this popped onto my radar was book 3. Oh, I hope book 3 is out. Oh. I have pre-ordered it. I'm sorry. Book 3 will be auto-delivered to your Kindle on July 14th, 2020. So,
there you go.
So it's coming out in another month. Okay. So I'm all prepared. And that means that I can pretend that I was planning on taking a break after book 2 to listen to the, latest, book by Neil Stephenson. So that's actually what I'm listening to at the moment. But anyway. I was going to say the Lady Astronaut series was I'm very much enjoying. And in another month, book 3 will be out.
Is book 3 the finale, or is it going to keep going? Do you know?
I guess I don't know. But boy, now I'm hoping that the audiobook will be out because I very much enjoyed the she is reading it herself. Or performing it. But anyway, she's she does a great job. Very, very enjoyable. So anyway, that's my something fun.
Very cool.
Calculating stars.
I think, just as another side note, I think I saw, don't try this, Adam Savage retweeted her, who she was live streaming her thoughts during the SpaceX launch on Twitter.
Oh.
I should find that and throw that thread in there too.
Oh.
She had an interesting perspective on, all her research, all the research she did. She was like, this is what they're doing now, and this is what they're doing now. And I expect this, it was good. It was good.
I hadn't seen that. Okay. Yeah. If you find a link to that, I'll throw it in our episodes. Oh, and just as we wrap, because we're done here now, but I will encode this eepisode with better encoding than lately. Oh. For the last couple of months, I'm not even sure for how long it's been. I have evidently been encoding when I do the editing at a significantly higher bit rate. So my episodes wind up being like 70, 80 megs, where when you edit, they wind up being 20.
It's just a high, they like your episodes are, get higher downloads because, the quality is just that much better.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the quality. All right, man. Let's call it a show. Be safe, be well, and Black
be
Lives
nice
Matter.
to people. Yeah.
All right.
See you, John.
Bye.
Bye.